Well, we've made it to the finish line. Another Christmas Eve has actually arrived, and for better or worse, we've done what we can to get ready for it. Except for those poor few who may still have something to assemble when they get home tonight, the rest of us can go home and go to bed at last. What a huge amount of work Christmas calls for. Trees and decorations and travel plans. But of course, the largest task, for so many of us it seems, is the task of buying, wrapping, and giving Christmas gifts. They take up a huge amount of our minds, at least for many of us. We make our lists and wander through the stores hoping to find the perfect gift, or if not that, at least something to check the name off the list with. We overhear children being asked, "What are you getting for Christmas?" And we ask each other anxiously, "Have you finished your shopping yet?" And then, of course, there's all the self-doubt. Was the gift I gave her as nice as the one she gave me? I wonder if they're going to give me a present. Maybe I better keep an extra on hand just in case. What a production all of it seems to be. Of course, Christmas presents were there at the very first Christmas and have been around off and on ever since. It all started with the three wise men bringing gold and frankincense and myrrh to lay before the child king born in that manger. And ever since, gift giving has seemed to be essential to Christians. We all know the song, The 12 Days of Christmas, with its long list of foolish gifts, 7 swans a-swimming, 6 geese a-laying. It dates back several hundred years of gift giving. Well, back a long way. It only really became popular in the 1950s. And in fact, it recently turned up on a newspaper poll as one of the most irritating Christmas songs of the year, second only to Do You Hear What I Hear and Little Drummer Boy. So what is Christmas giving and getting all about? Why does it seem so essential? What are we trying to say with our gifts? We pour imagination and thought into choosing the right gift for someone we care about, but our gifts can take on surprising meanings. A few years ago, Garrison Keillor of Prairie Home Companion fame wrote an essay on Christmas presents. He describes being appalled one Christmas by the recent gift he received of a burgundy polo shirt. He said he had just never seen himself as a burgundy sort of fellow. Those are the types who smoke cigarillos, he says, and sit in cocktail lounges and bet on basketball games. And so he put the shirt in a special section of his closet where he keeps the never-to-be-worn clothes. And after a 3-month cooling off period, he took them on to the homeless shelter. Then Keillor says this: a Christmas gift represents somebody's theory of who you are or who they wish you were. And of course, we know how to handle the wildly inappropriate gift from a stranger. But what if you see yourself as a smooth dude and a swift intellect, and then one year your wife gives you a pair of singing undershorts that perform O Tannenbaum when you sit down, and a battery-powered coin bank in which a little farmer picks up the coins in his pitchfork and hoists them into the silo. That's when you go through an identity crisis. You'd like to get a gift that aims high, Whitman's Leaves of Grass, or a ticket to Nepal. Instead, there's a pair of bedroom slippers with lights in the toes so you can see your way to the bathroom at night. And he goes on. How many children have unwrapped a package that appeared to be a box set of CDs? They were exciting in imagining a whole new Screaming Mimes collection or Roadkill's Best. And they tear open the paper and find Bach's Brandenburg Concertos with a picture of a geeky guy holding a stick in his hand, and they think, why are you giving me this? Do you want me to be a hopeless nerd? Do you want me never to go to parties? And so it goes. The complex giving of gifts and messages we send or don't intend to send. One of the great themes of Christmas stories is that the real worth of the gift is irrelevant. The real value, cost of the gift is irrelevant. What matters is the spirit of giving, the wanting to offer the best that we have. It's our desire to delight someone who matters to us. Remember that all that little drummer boy could do is play his drum, a rumple-pum-pum. But that was the one gift he had to give. The simple story we just heard a few minutes ago this evening tells of the birth of a child in Bethlehem that recounts the greatest gift of all, the gift of Christmas itself. A man and a young woman, heavily pregnant, travel from their home in Nazareth to be registered in the census. It's a long, hard journey, and when they arrive, the inn is full, and they spend the night out in the cattle shed. During the night, the woman's labor begins. The man helps, and she bears a baby, a son, that they wrap in bands of cloth to keep him warm. It's a simple, even touching story. But the grandness of the story is that we Christians believe it is also a story of God, the great mystery, the great power behind the universe becoming flesh, coming into the world in one life, at one place, in this one child. That child then grew to manhood and lived and loved and taught and suffered and died. And those who knew him were convinced that God had come in that one life. Of course, it didn't look clear at the time. Both Mary and Joseph were stunned and confused when they learned what was going to happen with their child. And even though the angels were announcing great joy in the story, the first thing they were saying is, "Fear not." There was anxiety and confusion and fear all woven through these accounts. Many in Judea, where Bethlehem was, were looking for a Messiah. But what they expected was a military leader to raise an army, to unify the nation and throw out the Romans at last. And others were looking for a pious leader who would stay out of politics and have everyone adjust to their captors' ways and feel better about their situation. But what they got was this prince born in a cow stall, who would be no warrior rallying the troops, but a prince of peace, a healer, a forgiver, a disturber, a man determined to turn our world upside down. God's gift of love wasn't exactly what people wanted at the time, or exactly what we would want now. We're still hoping somehow that God could come along and set things right in a world that desperately needs to be set right. In these times, we seem to be beset with global problems, terrorism and ethnic conflict and racial divisions in our country and shameful poverty in our country and around the world, and of late, a fierce and brutal plague sweeping across some of the most vulnerable human beings in our world. We need God to fix these things, to confirm our ideas of how it could be done. But God's Christmas gift is not a power. It's a child. It's a man who launches a movement to heal and bring peace to the world by winning hearts, practicing forgiveness, opening minds one by one. As it turns out, God's greatest gift isn't the staggering power to fix the world, but it's a vulnerable power that works from the inside people's hearts, inside their communities, inside their hopes and dreams. I remember reading once the response of a bitter young man in Harlem to an adult who was trying to tell him that God loved him. "Don't you know God loves you?" "How can I trust that?" he said. "I have to see love with skin on it." That's the great gift of this mysterious giver. this great mystery of power and love that sustains the entire cosmos, chose to have skin on at one point in history so that we could see and know the way that God intends to heal and redeem us all. Love took on skin in Bethlehem. And that gritty life of love started a revolution that is still slowly but steadily spreading as we humans learn the ways of compassion and generosity and forgiveness and inclusion and welcome that are the hope of the world. If we don't find our ways to those, we will be lost. The word we have here for that revolution is, of all things, church. We too often think of church as a building or a beautiful service or a budget or a set of beliefs, all of which are a part of it. But church is a worldwide movement launched 2,000 years ago to equip each of us and all of us to be healers, reconcilers, givers, builders of hope. It is the way that busy, distracted people like most of us most of the time can keep checking in and keep growing and keep staying in touch with who we are meant to be. It's the way this centuries-long revolution works. People again and again learning the ways of this child, this Savior, this one who calls us to live and forgive and be open to the new. Every Christmas season, as the days are their darkest, somehow the tragedy in the world around seems more intense, at least to me. And so especially in December, especially on the way to Christmas, when the darkness feels so real, the days are so short, I keep my eyes open for some particular burst of light that gives me hope. One great ray of light this year that has deeply moved me came from Time Magazine's year-end issue naming the person of the year. This time it is the Ebola fighters. Those immensely courageous medical practitioners who've put their life at risk for the sake of a desperately vulnerable people. Reading their stories, learning why they are there, why they stay there, why they go back there, reminds me how noble human beings can be. Dr. Jerry Brown, a surgeon who's part of a Christian mission in Monrovia, is one. And Dr. Kent Brantley, the first American to contract Ebola, survived Ebola and continues to go back again and again, is another. Both speak of their work as a calling, as a flow of gratitude flowing through them, gratitude for their own lives, gratitude for the survivors who are making it, a desperate desire to spread, with, we have to call it, love, the healing powers that they know to save these desperate people. What gifts they are giving. What light shines. What human possibilities we see for all of us to have our call, our clarity, our sense of being part of this movement for healing our times. They know, and tonight we do too, that we are receivers of this immense Christmas gift. A love that took on flesh 2,000 years ago, that seeks to take on flesh again and again, to release the spark of God's love at the center of us all, so that we might ourselves embrace this struggling human race and give it our gifts, our love, our hope. So as you open your Christmas gifts tonight, maybe, or tomorrow, I hope you'll not forget the greatest gift of all, a love at the heart of everything, a love at the heart of your deepest self that will never let us go, born that dark night in Bethlehem and born again tonight in you and me.